Hi everyone, thanks so much for showing up to today's Track Live. Today I'm going to be talking about my path relating to the USPS and the upcoming election. Just a reminder that you guys are all going to get 50 XP just for showing up today and 10 XP for any questions that you ask along the way. So as they come up, you can always just type those into the chat. And before we start, please go and get out a separate device. We'll be doing an activity in a few minutes that will run a lot smoother if you have a device to do it separate from your device that you're watching this live stream on right now. So go ahead and get that. But now just moving on to talk a little bit about myself and about this path. My name is Adora. I am a rising senior at Palo Alto High School, and my favorite subjects are English and history. Personally, I really love to write, and I like learning about history because I really enjoy seeing the parallels between events in our past and what's going on right now. And my favorite two classes I've ever taken are AP US History and US Government. Aside from my classes in school, I'm editor-in-chief of my school's newspaper. I was captain of the water polo team my sophomore year, and I was class president for my freshman and my sophomore year. On the sports side, I swam competitively for 10 years. I started swimming when I was 5, but when I discovered water polo in my freshman year, I immediately quit. I really love the team element of water polo a lot more than I did with swimming, and it's been great ever since. And onto this path, I picked writing about this path because I have a passion for learning about politics, and I'm thinking about pursuing a political science major in college. And when you do this path, you're going to learn not only about the importance of voting and how mail-in voting works, but you'll be educated on this huge issue that affects every single American voting citizen. And you'll kind of debunk the controversy that's going around in the media right now about mail-in voting, and you'll see for yourself if it really is safe or not. And you'll also get to learn about how you and your family can personally make the election more democratic by supporting the USPS through the crisis they're facing right now, which you're also going to get to explore in this path. So at this point, I want you all to answer a question. The question is, do you think it's important to vote? So this would be voting in the presidential elections and the midterm elections, just in general. Do you think it's important to vote, and why or why not? So I want you to take the next minute or two to think through your answer to this question. Think of some evidence you're going to use either from your own life or things that you've heard or from your parents' experience or your guardian's experience, and type that answer in the chat. At the end of the live stream, I'm going to be picking my favorite response to this answer to feature. So go ahead and write your answer. We're going to wait about 30 seconds to another minute before we switch over to our activity. And don't worry if you don't finish, we'll be sitting in the waiting room of the activity for a while, just making sure that everyone can get in. So take your time on writing your response. Okay, so for right now, we are going to switch over to our main activity of today's event, which is a live Kahoot. So right now, I want you guys to take out the device you took out earlier at the beginning of the stream. So get that out and go to kahoot.it. And either open that or go to the app if you have it downloaded already, and enter the game pin 1943457. See, Devin's gotten in. Great. We're going to wait a while to just make sure all of you guys have enough time to hop into the Kahoot. A couple more people are joining. Okay, we'll give people maybe 10, 20 more seconds. And if you ever get dropped from the Kahoot or need to join later, the game pin will be shown on the bottom of the screen in the middle. So you can always join back on if you do get dropped. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the Kahoot now. If any of you guys have already completed this path, you're going to have a little bit of an edge. But for those of you who haven't, no worries. You should still be able to make some educated guesses on what you think the answers are going to be. Okay, so the first question is, how does the USPS support itself? Do you guys think that they run on federal tax dollars, on donations, state funding, or purely their sale of postage stamps and mailing services? Answers are coming in. All right, so this was pretty split, but one person did get the answer right. The USPS actually supports itself entirely on the sale of services, postage, and stamps. They don't run on federal tax monies, they don't gather any money from state or taxpayers, and they don't rely on donations. They actually run all of their services completely on their own profits, which is pretty interesting. All right, congratulations to Carl, who is holding first place on the leaderboard. Let's see if he can keep it up. The next question is, what are stamps for? So as you guys probably know, stamps are those little sticky stickers that your parents have to put on mail when they send it. So what do you think the purpose of stamps are? Do they help mail get to the right destination? Do they just add pretty pictures? Do they organize mail by what category they fall into? Or do they help provide proof of postage? What do you guys think? Okay, it looks like half of you guys got this answer right. Amazing job. So, to go through each of the answers, the first thing is that a lot of times there are really beautiful historical landmarks or people that are shown on stamps, and they do look very pretty, but they are not just for adding that flair to rather plain mail. And they also don't help mail get to the exact right destination. So, one caveat of that is that the more stamps you have, the farther the mail is probably going to go. So for mail that's going within state, you'll need fewer stamps than mail that's going across the country. But stamps themselves do not actually help mail get to the right spot. They also don't help USPS workers organize the mail by category. That's usually written somewhere else on the package itself. But stamps are actually for providing proof that you paid the mail fees you needed to for sending your mail to where it needs to go. So great job to you three who got that question right. All right, Shervin has risen up the ranks. Great job. Carl holding steady in second place. Good job, you guys. So the next question is true or false. In most US elections, around 40% of the population who can vote does not vote. Do you guys think this is true or is it false? All right. Looks like almost all of you got this question right. It is unfortunately true that in most elections, almost 40% of the population usually doesn't turn out to vote. So this might be because people don't get to make it to the polls or they just don't get around to registering in time. But in most elections in the past couple of decades, it has turned out that only 60% of the population ends up registering and going through voting. This year, though, and in this path, you're going to learn how you personally can help that number of people who don't vote go down and make the election more democratic. Let's check the leaderboard. It looks like a VM has risen. Great job to second place, and Sherman's holding steady in first place. Good job, you guys. Next question. Be careful to read it closely. Which of these following answers is not something you have to do in order to be able to vote? Which one of these is not something you have to do? So, do you have to provide your yearly income? Do you have to provide your full legal name? Do you have to mark your party preference or choose no party? Or do you have to give your address? Three of these are things you do have to do to register to vote. One of them you do not. Which one do you think that is? Okay, it looks like this one was pretty split again. So the actual correct answer is that you don't have to provide your yearly income when you vote. So someone who makes a lot less or someone who makes like $2 million a year, there's no difference in what they have to do or what their rights are when it comes to voting. So you do actually have to provide your legal name. You have to mark which party you belong to or that you don't identify with any party. And you do have to give your address so they know where to mail the ballots. So the right answer is that you do not have to provide your yearly income when you register to vote. Okay, VM has overtaken Shervin. Great job. Let's see if the next question will shake things up a little bit. So, why is voting important? Make sure to read all these answers closely. Is voting important because it helps make our society more democratic, or that it gives you a voice in what policies govern you, lets you have a say in who governs you, or that all of these are correct? Okay, it looks like most of you guys got this question correct. Voting is important for all three of these reasons. So you not only vote on who governs you, like the president or the governor or your senators, you also get to vote on policies. So those propositions you might see television advertisements for are also policies that are going to decide how you're governed and what the laws are. And just generally, voting helps make our society more democratic because it involves you and your peers in these political decisions. So, actually, all three of these are the correct answer. Congrats to the four people who got this question right. Great job. VM has hit a streak of four correct answers in a row. Amazing job. And Devin and Jackson are rising up the ranks in the leaderboard. Good job. So, you might have seen some stuff in the media, but what do you think is going on with the USPS right now? Either is there a lack of workers because of the pandemic? Are there a lot more people than usual stealing packages? Are not enough people actually sending mail to go places? Or is there a funding crisis and they don't have enough money to support their mailing right now? Okay, looks like a lot of you guys got this question right. So, in fact, there isn't a lack of workers right now, and there aren't more than the usual number of people stealing packages, and people are still sending the same amount of mail as they usually do. The real situation going on with the US Postal Service right now is that they do have a lack of funding and they're being overloaded with mail but not having enough funds to support that mail getting to where it needs to go. So that's why buying stamps and other services is directly helping the USPS and helping to fix this funding crisis for them. So that's what's going on with the USPS. Great job. Rayhan has risen up the leaderboard into 5th place, and VM is holding his answer streak. Great, great work. Next question is a true or false. Buying stamps can support the USPS. I might have given this answer away in the explanation of the last question if you were paying attention. But do you guys think buying stamps directly supports the USPS, or does that money go elsewhere? Okay, 100% of you guys got this question right. Great job. Buying stamp does actually directly support the USPS because, as you learned earlier in this Kahoot, USPS runs entirely on the sale of stamps and the sale of their services and mailing. So buying stamps goes straight to helping mail get to your door. Nice job. Leaderboard staying the same. Okay, so our third to last question is, could the USPS's current funding crisis affect the upcoming election in November? So, as you will learn in this path, a lot of people are planning to vote by mail in this election. And the USPS is the prime or only mail carrier of ballots. So, do you think what's going on with the funding crisis in the USPS right now, do you think that could affect the election? Okay, 6 of you got this question correct. Yes. So, a lot of people are worried right now because the USPS lack of funding means that they might be overwhelmed with too many ballots coming in and not be able to get them to the polling places in time. So, definitely the USPS funding crisis has the potential to affect the election in that ballots are going to be delayed and it might take longer than usual to figure out who won the election. So the correct answer is yes, the crisis could definitely affect what the election outcome date is going to be. Okay, Devin and Rayhan rising to 3rd and 4th place. Great job. So, second to last question. How could the USPS funding crisis affect the election? So, do you think that ballots could be changed by USPS workers? Less people would vote overall. People would vote differently because of the funding crisis and worries about their ballots coming in late, or that the mail-in ballots could be severely delayed in their delivery. Which one of these 4 answers do you think is the most pressing issue right now? Okay. The correct answer is that mail-in ballots could be severely delayed in their delivery, another part of the last question. But as I just explained, if the USPS does have too many ballots coming in at once and they don't have enough workers or enough supplies and funds to support those ballots coming in, there might be big delays in those ballots moving across the country to where they needed to be and to get counted. So that's the biggest way that the USPS funding crisis might be affecting the election. Okay, it looks like Carl has joined the leaderboard in 5th place. Nice job. And VM is really holding steady in 1st place. Amazing. Let's see if this last question is going to change anything on the leaderboard. But true or false, mail-in voting fraud is extremely rare. So mail-in voting fraud consists of USPS workers changing votes or votes being thrown out or lost along the way. A lot of people in the media are saying that mail-in voting will cause huge election fraud and totally throw off the results of the election. But After a bunch of studies that have been done on past mail-in voting in older elections, is it true that mail-in voting fraud is extremely rare? Okay, so this was very split. The correct answer to this question is actually that it's true. It is very, very rare for ballots themselves to be altered by workers or for there to be any discovery that ballots were tampered with or lost along the way. Oftentimes, the ballots get exactly where they need to go and get counted just like every single other ballot. There have been mail in voting ballots and absentee votes for pretty much all of the last couple of elections in the last couple of decades, and there have been no issues so far. This year, it's just that mail in voting is more prevalent than ever given the pandemic and people not necessarily wanting to go out to the polls in person. So, a lot more people than usual are going to be voting by mail. But that does not change the fact that fraud with mail in voting is still very, very rare. So, let's see what the final leaderboard is. In third place, we have Shervin. Congrats. Second place, Devin. Amazing work. And first place, little drum roll, VM. Great job, you guys, and everyone on the leaderboard. Rayhan and Jackson are runners up, fourth and fifth place, and everyone who participated. Thank you guys. A couple of those questions were pretty tough. I don't think adults would have gotten all 10 of those questions correct. So you guys did a really amazing job. And what we're going to do now is transition into an Ask Me Anything, where you guys can submit questions in the chat about anything you're curious about. It can be related to the path, related to the USPS crisis right now. You can ask me about me and my school life, about high school, about being a student journalist and being on the staff of a newspaper. You can ask me about student government. If you're curious about water polo, you can ask me about that too. It's a pretty obscure sport. Not that many people play it or know what it is. You can totally ask me about that too. Anything you're curious about, go ahead and type those questions in the chat. So Devin asked, how long were you a water polo captain? Good question. When I was a sophomore, so for the 2.5 months that we had our season, I was team captain. So the role of the team captain pretty much is to go up to the officials at the beginning of each game. They tell you the rules and the regulations for that specific game and those and that site's rules. You relay that information back to your coach. You are basically the representative and the liaison for your team. So I got to do that, shake hands with the other captains, which of course in COVID era that would not be as possible. But yeah, that was what captain was being like, and I was captain for about 2 to 3 months. Another question from VM, is water polo hard? I would say it is very difficult, yes. You have to constantly be moving, you're treading water and swimming really hard the entire time. The position I play is set or the 2 meter center. So in that position, you're constantly battling with the other person. There are like some horror stories about coming home from practice with bruises every day, but honestly, it's worth it. Um, and I love it. It is kind of hard, but it's really short, high intensity bursts. Jackson asks, what is your least favorite subject? So I honestly like pretty much all the subjects, but if I had to pick one that I didn't like, it would probably be the sciences. I just have more of an affinity toward writing and the social sciences. I also really like math. It just makes a lot of sense to me, and I like learning about math. But definitely, I think my least favorite subject is science. I like chemistry a lot, but on the physics side and biology, I don't like those as much. So from VM, why does Trump not like mail in voting if fraud is extremely rare? That is a really great question. So If you look at elections in the past, the Republican Party tends to win when voter turnout is lower. So when less people vote, and particularly when less younger people vote, the elections tend to sway toward the Republican side. So with mail-in voting, this will enable a lot more people to vote easier and get their ballots in more smoothly. So it might be a reason for voter turnout to go up. Um, and in the past, that has historically shown that the more people that vote, the more votes there are for the Democratic Party. So he seems to not like it because it might threaten his the turnout of the election. So YT Brick Studios, aka Devin, he asked, why doesn't USPS raise funds or donations? So that's another good question. There are some legal boundaries around the USPS being this public organization receiving those donations and funds from citizens. So it's something that is not 100% feasible right now, even though it may produce people wanting to donate and support the USPS. But the best way for you to do that right now actually is to go out and buy stamps, as you'll learn in this path, because essentially that's like making a donation, but you personally get a benefit yourself too. So it's a win-win on both sides. The USPS gets funds while you also get some useful mailing materials for when you want to send letters to people, your friends who may not live close to you, or anyone that you want to send mail to. You have that extra benefit while knowing that you're supporting the USPS. Great question. If you guys have any other questions about anything, feel free. We'll probably do a Q&A for a couple more minutes and then close off. Looks like we're nearing the end of our time, actually. So if there aren't any other questions, I wanted to say thank you guys so much for coming today. Look out for your XP boost to show up within 24 to 48 hours on your accounts. And now I actually want to announce the featured response winner before we go off. Back at the beginning of the stream, we asked, should you vote or not? Or why is voting important? Why or why not? So my favorite answer to this question was from Shervin. He said yes, because you have the chance to pick who is going to be in charge of your state, city, or country. So I really like this answer because it not only covers you as a voter getting to pick who's going to be president, but it also brings it down to the state and the city level. So when you vote in elections, you're not only voting for the president, but in midterms and other elections, you vote for your senators, you vote for your city council, your school board, and even down to the way local level to what city you live in. You have a say in who you want to be governing you. So great job, Shervin. Love that answer. It's really comprehensive and it's absolutely correct. It's important to vote because that lets you make decisions not only on a national level, but on a level that affects you every single day in the city you live in. So great job. And before you guys log off, I just want to make sure that you guys check out some of my other learning paths. Some favorites of mine right now are painting like Picasso and how cheetahs run as fast as a car. Those were pretty fun to make, and I think that they'll be fun for you guys to do as well. And also make sure to attend the next live event, which will be next Tuesday, and it'll feature content writer Yael and her path on the science and ethics of junk food. You'll be receiving more information about how to register for that event soon, but it's going to be a hit. And yeah, thank you guys so much for coming today. Hope you have a great rest of your day.